Hi friends, welcome to the channel. Here you will find fascinating videos on a variety of topics. Subscribe and stay tuned. The history of the invention of the coffee machine. Today, coffee can be made in seconds with the lightest movement of a finger, simply by pressing the right buttons on the coffee machine. But this was not always the case. What were the first coffee machines and who was involved in their creation? Now we will tell you. The first prototype. Up until the very beginning of the 19th century, coffee was brewed in turbines and the automation of the process was not really thought about. And yet scientific and technological progress has made its corrections. In 1800, Jean-Baptiste de Bellois-Moranglou, an archbishop with an engineering background, presented the world's first drip-type coffee maker to the public. The principle of operation was based on the fact that hot water seeped through a layer of ground coffee beans and a tart drink slowly flowed into the cup. Almost 20 years later, an ordinary French tinsmith named Moritz improved the design. The machine he assembled began to turn over. It consisted of two containers. Water was poured into the lower one, and ground grains were poured into the upper one. The device was then placed on an open fire. When the water boiled, it was turned over, and fresh coffee poured out of the spout. Around the same time, the first geyser-type coffee maker appeared, with hot water sprayed through a layer of ground coffee. The idea belonged to the jeweler Jacques-Augustin Gandet, but was far from perfect. French designer Nicolas Félix Durand undertook to refine it. As a result, a new type of device for coffee preparation appeared, which is partly still used today. Steam coffee machines. In the 30s of the 19th century, steam energy began to be used to invent coffee machines. Thus, British engineer Samuel Parker assembled a device which unassumingly called Parker's steam fountain. Almost immediately after the start of operation, defects were discovered, and after their elimination, the device was renamed the Viennese coffee machine and then presented at an exhibition in the Austrian capital. Despite the fact that the coffee turned out quite decent, the invention was not further developed, and only a few decades later, there was a worthy geyser coffee maker for steam of a new sample. Prominent Italian industrialist Alfonso Bialetti summarized and brought together all the successful ideas available. The fruit of his labors was the Mocha Express coffee maker. Today, this brand is known to all coffee drinkers around the world. Fortunes and missteps. In the 40s, the vacuum coffee maker was created. The idea belonged to the British naval engineer Robert Napier. In his device, water passed through a container with ground coffee beans due to the internal vacuum. This idea was further developed by other engineers, which led to the appearance of balanced coffee makers that automatically turned off the heating elements. In 1843, at the World Exhibition in Paris, a hydrostatic vase of Loisel was presented. It is also a compression steamer of French engineer Édouard Loisel de Santé, although in appearance it looked more like a giant machine. It was operated by two people at once. One poured ground coffee beans into the compartment, the other periodically threw fuel into the stove. Coffee literally poured out of the tap without stopping. According to eyewitnesses, in 1 hour, the machine prepared no less than 2,000 portions. However, the quality of the beverage left much to be desired, because it was difficult to correctly calculate the proportions of water and ground beans on such a scale. Plus, the temperature and pressure changed chaotically, so the beans were overcooked or left raw. The Italian approach. By the end of the 19th century, the Italians were actively taking up coffee machines. In 1884, Angelo Moriando received a patent for a new type of steam machine, as it was stated, for instant preparation of coffee drink. The main innovation was a boiler, which significantly accelerated the whole process. The device was presented at an exhibition in Turin, and even had success, but it was not possible to put it into mass production. Another Italian, Luigi Bezzera, slightly improved the design of the predecessor. The machine had a pump and special valves for steam and water, and it also increased the pressure and added the option of milk supply. The whole cooking algorithm was actually reduced to a few seconds. But then Bezer ran out of money and sold the rights to the invention to a certain Desiderio Pavoni. He had enough money and knowledge to produce the world's first espresso machine in 1905. A year later, he presented the improved device at an exhibition in Milan and immediately managed to establish mass production of coffee machines under his brand. New century. In the 20th century, it was decided to move away from steam technology. Francesco Illy invented a machine with a water spillage function, i.e., hot water rather than steam was fed through the pressed ground coffee. The main problem was that the machine required a lot of physical effort to maintain, and only wealthy restaurateurs could afford to install it in their establishment. The invention of Achille Gaggia is worthy of special attention. In his machine, pressurized water was directed into a small cylinder, and at the expense of the lever, amplified even more. The cup was filled with a very small portion of espresso, about 30 millimolars, but it was this portion that became the standard. The Gaggia machine also produced coffee with crema, which is evidence of the correct preparation technology. In the 60s, Ernesto Valenti put a motorized pump on the machine, which made it possible to maintain the optimal pressure of 9 bar. The required temperature was maintained by a heat exchanger. At the end of the 70s, Eric Favre patented the capsule system. The real stardom of such coffee machines came in the 80s, when users appreciated the convenience of the new method of brewing and packaging. A little later, the first automatic coffee machine came out. It not only prepared coffee, but also foamed milk. It is noteworthy that the cappuccinator, as an additional detail to the coffee machine, was invented only in 1996. That's it! Thank you for watching the rest of this. If you liked the video, don't forget to rate and subscribe.